Cars that cost $6,000 to $8,000 that an average shop can work on. That's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get started. Cars are very challenging no matter what brand to work on, especially the newer ones today. And as you can see in the background, there's several cars in this shop that if you were to take it to just any random shop, you very likely will be refused to even look at the car, even diagnose it, or even touch the car. They'll be like, nah bro, there's the parking lot, take your car back out. We're not even gonna look at that car. You definitely don't want one of these cars if you're looking just for A to B transportation that doesn't break all the time. And if it does break, you don't want a whole bunch of hassle to get it fixed. So today we're going to talk about 6 cars that are in the range between $6,000 and $8,000 that the average reputable shop, now I mentioned reputable, should be able to fix them. Let's head on over to the thinking chair. So you guys would be surprised how many times I've gotten an email that someone says I've got a Mercedes, a BMW, an Audi. I thought it'd be a good car, but I just can't find anybody to work on it. Or either that, they're trying to gouge me. I'm trying to keep you guys out of that trouble. So like I mentioned a minute ago, we're going to talk about those cars that your average shop should be able to work on. Now before we jump in, I need to put my seatbelt on so we can stay safe. There we go. One thing to keep in mind, obviously, with any car you're going to buy, there's some things that need to be checked before you hand over the cash. Is it rusted? There's cars that can be the best car in the world, but if it's been in the Northeast through multiple snowstorms and the whole bottom end is rotted out, I don't care what brand it is, it's a piece of junk and you should not buy it. Also check for oil leaks, major engine damage, or other things that could be wrong that could cost thousands of dollars. Like I've said before, and I'm going to repeat it again, get a pre-purchase inspection. Not after you buy it to see what you got. Get the inspection before you buy it to see what you're getting into. And even if you're just doing a cursory glance and initially checking this car over, you can take a peek underneath and check, is there anything dripping? Is there fluids on the ground? Does it look like the whole bottom is brown with rust like it's been at the bottom of the ocean? Those are things you can check before you move to the next step. Test drive, look at it, and then say, hey, can I take this to my local mechanic and get an inspection? I want to see what I'm getting into here and kind of see if this is a good car, a bad car. Maybe there's a few things I'm willing to fix. Maybe there's some things I'm willing not to fix. So definitely keep that in mind. And trust me, I've gotten a few emails where I say, hey, get a pre-purchase inspection, and the response is, I really don't want to spend that money right now. If you don't, you could end up spending tons of money and wasting it because you bought a car that's a lemon. So definitely plunk down the cash to get that inspection. Probably $100, $200 at most shops is probably what it's going to be. But it could definitely save you a ton of cash, so keep that in mind. Now let's start out with number 1. 2006 to 2012 Toyota Camry. These are extra reliable. They're so reliable, in fact, that my daughter and her boyfriend both have a 2008 Toyota Camry, and they're both silver. They're almost identical, except one's a 4-cylinder, one's a V6. That's definitely the car I wanted to see them in since the daughter's in college. I don't have time to be fixing a broken car all the time. I said, you're getting a Toyota. So that's what they have. And it's been basically bulletproof other than small little issues here or there, but nothing like major that's going to break the bank. You should be able to go to any national chain store or local mechanic shop and they should be able to fix this car. If they say this is a car we don't work on or it's a foreign car, I probably wouldn't even go to that shop. It doesn't get much more basic than a Toyota Camry. They should be able to fix that. This is easily a 400,000 mile car. So if it has 200 on it, that's fine. As long as it's been maintained and also you plan to keep on maintaining it, it should get to 400,000 miles without too much trouble. I've seen a lot of these into threes, in the high threes. They're still going strong. My daughter's car is right at 200,000 miles, and I didn't blink an eye. I bought it without question after I checked it over, obviously. I know it's got a lot more life left in it. These are very comfortable cars. They're somewhat stylish. No, they're not an Audi. They're not a BMW. They're not like flashy and like, look at me. I know that. They're kind of frumpy as far as the styling goes, but they look decent. They can get about 30 to 35 miles per gallon on the highway, and they really are a good car. So we're going to head on to number 2, and thinking about cars and the cost of cars and possibly going in debt, it brings to mind car repairs are expensive. I'm frequently shocked how much parts have gone up in the last couple of years. A few years ago, you could get a battery for a domestic car for about $100. Today, it's common for them to be over $175 or even $200. These price increases have made it harder to make ends meet. Do you ever feel like you just can't get ahead? When Mrs. Wizard and I first got married over 20 years ago, you know, when we were just David and Jenny, we struggled to get by. I was a machinist, she was a teacher, and we were raising 2 little girls. Those were some lean and tough years. We worked really hard and dug our way out, but if you find that you're making all your monthly payments and your debt just isn't going down, I have a program for you. The sponsor of today's video, PDS Debt, can help. Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt, like credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills, qualifies, and there is no minimum credit score required. Plus, PDS Debt can also make your life easier by combining all of your debts into one low monthly payment. No more juggling when each bill is due and how much. Rest assured, PDS Debt is a top-rated company on Google and has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. PDS Debt is offering a free debt analysis. It only takes 30 seconds. Head on over to pdsdebt.com/carwizard to get your free debt assessment today. Don't let debt eat away at your life. Go to that link and start getting your life back on track. Now let's get back to all these cars I'm recommending. Now on to car number 2, which is 2005 to 2012 Lincoln Town Car. I know you say, oh, that's a grandpa's car. Trust me, once you drive one, you'll change your mind how comfortable and relaxing it is. These have bulletproof, time-tested engines all the way back from the early 90s, the 4.6 modular engine. Really absolutely bulletproof. The transmissions are also bulletproof. Basically, the whole car is tried and true. They've been used in police cruisers and all kinds of cabs and things all over the country, which is the Panther platform, which is used on the Crown Victoria, the Grand Marquis, also the Town Car. They all share this same setup. And any of those other cars, the Crown Vic or the Grand Marquis, are equally as good. It's just that the Town Car is much more luxurious. They do look nice. They're very comfortable. And 25, 27 on the highway is typically what you can expect. I've heard some people get more, but I think probably around 24 or 5 is more like it. Again, this is another vehicle that you can expect 400,000 miles on them. I have seen several of these Panther platform cars, the ones I just mentioned a minute ago, come into a shop years ago when I was working at a different shop, 350, 425,000 miles. There's cabs on the road that are still going today. They're at 300,000 or 400,000 miles and they're still going. They are that good of a car. If you can get past the frumpy looks, I know they don't look all that appealing, but again, we're looking at $6,000 to $8,000 cars that any shop can work on. We're not looking at high-end, fancy schmancy cars. I don't know if you consider that fancy schmancy, but you get the idea. But amazingly, I've worked on a lot of smart cars. We get a lot of them in. And the frequent thing is that I hear, my local shop told me to GTFO basically. They're like, oh, heck no. We are not touching a smart car. It's just a Mercedes-Benz. It's really easy to work on those. I don't know what the deal is. But again, I'm trying to stress to you guys, this needs to be a set of cars that when you drive into the bay, they're not like, the mechanics aren't like, oh my God, get that out of here. No. Trust me, there's some mechanics out there that if it has anything to do with anything, even slightly outside of a domestic car, they're like, nope. Not touching it. So keep that in mind. Number 3 is 2007 to 2011 Honda Accord. These are almost as reliable as a Toyota Camry. They're very close. They're very good cars. Again, this is another 300 or more thousand-mile car. You can expect to get that kind of life out of it. These have a 4-cylinder or a V6 option depending on what you want. I like the 4-cylinder option because it has less moving parts, less spark plugs, less coils, a whole lot of less expense in repairing them. If you want a little bit more power, there is a V6. Actually, my own mother has one of these, a silver Honda Accord, and it has been bulletproof for them. Both of my parents, they have their own separate car. They have a Honda Accord for my mom and a Toyota Highlander for my dad. They knew they're getting into the age, there is no time for BS with broken down cars. They wanted some cars that are going to last and not be in the shop every 90 days. And so I never see my parents' cars. I do see my parents from time to time, but not their cars, which is good. These easily get 30 or more miles per gallon, regardless of which engine choice you choose. They're just really a great car, and any shop should be able to work on your Honda Accord. If they can't, something is wrong with that shop. Again, it just doesn't get more basic than a Honda Accord. They're so easy to work on. On to number 4. Number 4 is going to be 2009 to 2013 Subaru Outback. This is going to be in that $6,000 to $8,000 range. If you go much older, it gets way cheaper. If you go much newer, the price goes up. These are going to be all-wheel drive. They're going to be very rugged. These things are all over the country. And there's certain states you can go to, like Washington State or Colorado, especially you get into the mountainous areas. These cars are everywhere. I mean, they're like ants on the ground. They're everywhere. There's a reason for that. They're really that good. Also, the years I just recommended are after the years of the blown head gaskets. If you get an 04, 03 Subaru, it's very likely you could be looking to some head gasket issues. I'm talking about some year range where that's pretty much been solved. These also easily get 30 to 35 miles per gallon, and they're very usable because they're all-wheel drive. They usually have, the rear seats can go down. It's kind of like a station wagon type thing. You can put small boards in there or a small piece of furniture. They're very, very handy to have, very usable, very good cars. I highly recommend them. In fact, Mrs. Wizard's aunt owns one of these, and my oldest daughter is looking to buy one. Very, very good cars. Number 5 is 2011 to 2016 Dodge Charger. Now, I know some of you guys are laughing, oh, those things are garbage. Actually, they're pretty good. They actually are pretty decent. Some of you in the comments have said on my Charger it's a poverty car, it's what the poor people buy. I don't agree with that. I think that's disrespectful to talk like that. But it is true, if you go into some areas, in some lower income areas, you do see a lot of them, and some of them are really beat up pretty bad. And they're still going. They're still driving. It's something to be said about a car that gets severely neglected, and yet it just still keeps going. I've seen some of these things where the engine is smoking, just pouring fluid out of the bottom, and they just keep driving. Now, obviously, these are neglected examples. If you get a nice example and take care of it, they actually are a pretty good car. They're very comfortable. They're very easy to work on. Definitely any shop that's reputable should be able to work on a domestic Dodge Charger. They absolutely should be able to work on it. This is probably a 250 or 300,000 mile car. I don't know about 4 or 5 like a Toyota, but they definitely can last a while. They look decent. No, they don't look like a Ferrari. They're not fancy schmancy, but they are a decent looking car. And you can get them with a V6 that actually get decent fuel economy. Some of them have get up and go. If you get an RT model or Scat Pack or something, obviously your fuel mileage is going to suffer, but they can have some pretty good power. They're actually very fun to drive. So as much as they might be the laughing stock, people make fun of those cars, they actually are a pretty good car. They really are. Now, thinking about laughing stock, we're going to move on to number 6. 2008 to 2019 Nissan Altima. These are really good doing 110 through a school zone. They are really, really good at that. They can crash into curbs. They can actually, the back end can hit telephone poles. And these things are still going. I've seen some with spare tires on where the tire's gone, it's on the metal wheel, and it's still going. These can have miles of life in them, but they're usually totaled by 200,000. They usually don't make it that far because they've been destroyed by then. And the fuel mileage is not that great because they're typically going over 100 miles an hour, sometimes as much as 120. You don't get good gas mileage with these cars because of that. And they've got to be safe, because I've seen some that are caved in, the doors are missing, the hood is missing, but the driver is still okay. They have to be safe. They have to. Now, obviously, guys, I'm just joking. I would not recommend one of those cars to anyone. They are garbage. But it seems like so many of them are on the road, they're literally about to fall apart or catch on fire, and somehow they keep going. And they can even still do 120 on the highway and fly past you.
It's the ultimate energy, dear.
It's big ultimate energy. It's got to be. There's something to that. I'll put in a number 7, a 7th car. I know that was a joke that doesn't help you any. But we'll move on to one that actually is a good car. All jokes aside. The real number 6 is 2007 to 2014 Ford Mustang. And again, some guys would say, well, those are good for destroying crowds. No, I'm talking about just driving one, going point A to point B, and they also can be very fun to drive. I'm not talking about doing hooning in them. They actually are a very reliable car. You had an older one, Mrs. Wizard, a black one. It was a 06.
It was a really nice car. Little V6 with the manual transmission. It was a blast to drive.
And now you have an 08 Shelby GT500 Mustang.
Yeah, it's a little faster, but yeah, even with 600 horsepower, I can control it.
It's usable. It's still usable. These are actually built very well. All jokes aside again, they really are a good car. And any shop worth their weight should be able to repair a domestic Ford Mustang. And think of it, Mrs. Wizard's GT500 that we just mentioned has 210,000 miles on it. And it still drives very well. We did have to sort out some of the suspension, a couple oil leaks, some small things, but after sorting those things, it drives very good with all those miles on it. And these weren't even meant to be a long life car as far as being a Toyota or something. It's a freaking Shelby GT500, and it's still lasted all this time and still lasting. So they can be a very good car. They're sporty and very fun to drive. If you got a young one that's in high school that wants a cool car, you can get them a V6 Mustang. It's not going to have enough power to go really crazy, but it still can be fun to drive and very reliable. So hopefully all those cars help you guys out. Obviously the Nissan Altima is not going to help you out. It's probably not helping anyone out right now. But a lot of the cars I recommend people not to buy, people still buy them, obviously. But again, people that buy these types of cars, this is not their main transportation that they need to rely on to get to point A to point B, to get to work or go to doctor's appointments. These are cars that are fun cars. For the most part. Some people do rely on a BMW or Mercedes, but you got to remember it's going to cost more to maintain them. These cars I just recommended are cars that's not going to break the bank or go into bankruptcy trying to keep the thing running. And even if it does break, an average shop should be able to fix them, and it won't be so expensive. So those are the $6,000 to $8,000 range of cars that most shops should be able to work on. Hopefully it helps you guys out. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on any of these cars in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. That's if you purchase anything. Check out Mrs. Wizard's Ways. She's got some really good content going on there. You don't want to miss out. And also hit the subscribe button here. We have tons more videos for you guys coming. Thanks for watching.